It's November 8th, 2014, and we're set up at Pittsfield Junction along the WATCO-owned Ann Arbor Railroad. Today's southbound road train is picking up several high-cube boxcars from their Saline branch, which were dropped off there earlier that morning. After picking up the cars, the train will continue its journey south to Milan, Michigan. There, the high-cube boxcars will be dropped off, and later on, the Norfolk Southern local train B70 will pick up the cars and head for Detroit. The train's final destination is Toledo, Ohio. The high cubes are carrying automotive parts from the Faurecia plant in Saline, Michigan. The plant is located on the former Detroit, Hillsdale, and Southwestern Railroad. The line was constructed in 1870 and 1871, linking Hillsdale and Ypsilanti, Michigan. Through the support of State Representative Henry Waldron, the railroad became a reality. Waldron founded the railroad and served as its first president. He had been involved with the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern Railway earlier in his lifetime, serving as a board member. The railroad was once connected to the Michigan Central at Ypsilanti and crossed a couple of other railroads on its way west. Based on the timetable from 1874, the DH and SW had 4 scheduled passenger trains per day, with 2 from each direction. One of the passenger trains was the designated mail train for the local towns along the railway. Several important customers were located on the Hillsdale branch. Sadly, only one remains today. In Saline, the Ford plant was built in 1966 to replace the facility in Brooklyn, Michigan. Today, the same Ford plant in Saline manufactures automotive parts under the name Faurecia. Another important customer on the DH and SW Hillsdale branch was the Peninsular Portland Cement Company, located in Cement City, Michigan. According to the Jackson Citizen Patriot, Cement City was originally named Kelly's Corners and later Woodstock. It officially changed its name to Cement City in 1900, the namesake town of the PPCC. The town began near Cary and Cement City roads and had a general store, a blacksmith shop, and a few houses. The town was surrounded by farms. Orson Kelly, originally the one to name the village Kelly's Corners, operated the general store. The Lakeshore and Michigan Southern was the first railroad to serve the village via the Detroit, Hillsdale, and Southwestern, and the Cincinnati Northern Railroad would come later in 1896. Nearby, Goose and Silver Lakes contained a significant concentration of marl, which is a combination of clay and calcium carbonate necessary for making cement. The Peninsular Portland Cement Company was founded by a group of Jackson businessmen in 1889. The plant was begun in the fall of 1899, just west of the DH&SW on Goose Lake. It was the first factory in the world to have its machinery and lights completely powered by electricity. The cement industry dusted the area with grit for more than 60 years, before closing down in 1961. More than 100 men were laid off that December, affecting more than half of the village's population. Much of the plant sat idle until the 1990s, when it was cleared for redevelopment. The redevelopment did not come to fruition, and the site remains vacant and unused today. The Hillsdale branch was supposed to be cut back from Hillsdale to Manchester in the early 1950s, but thanks to the persistence of several Brooklyn businessmen, the rail service on this line remained active until the early 1960s. In 1963, the tracks were removed between Hillsdale and Manchester and were further cut back to Bridgewater a few years later. In 1968, the branch was cut back from Ypsi to the middle of a field about 1 mile east of the Diamond, and a newly installed connection between the Ann Arbor Railroad main line was put in between the branch. When the line was cut back, the Ann Arbor Railroad took control of the remaining track and started serving the line into Saline. The tracks remain in place on a few parts on this line, including a few bridges, but for the most part, it's completely abandoned. The Ford plant first opened its doors in 1966. The plant specialized early on in plastics and trim manufacture. In 2000, the plant began a series of ownership changes, the first of which was the Visteon Corporation in 2000. Visteon was spun off from Ford and became an independent, publicly traded company. In 2005, Visteon struck a deal with its former parent company to transfer the ownership of the Saline and several other facilities back to Ford in an effort to avoid bankruptcy. The new company was called Automotive Components Holdings. ACH was owned by the Ford company, and its primary mission was to sell or close the plant by December of 2008. From 2007 to 2012, the plant continued to go under several more ownership changes. On May 3, 2012, Faurecia announced its intention to buy the plant from Ford, and gained control 2 months later. Plans were announced for an official dedication of the plant on July 17, 2012. It also announced its plans to reconfigure and upgrade the plant over the next few years. Back in the Ford plant's heyday, it was served 3 times a day by the Penn Central and Ann Arbor Railroad. After several interesting switch moves, the Ann Arbor Railroad is ready to head south after about a half hour of work. Thanks for watching Delay in Block Productions. If you like this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook for more great content just like this.